What if the people you trust most are hiding the truth from you? And what if those secrets were enough to destroy the trust that had been built up over the years? When an employee of HYBE divulges the darkest secrets that even Taehyung and Jungkook never knew, the entire world falls silent. Is this the biggest betrayal in BTS history? Who can really be trusted when the truth begins to crumble one after another? Who do we think is always on the side of BTS members, apparently keeping a hidden agenda? And the biggest question that now shakes the ARMY community around the world: why did HYBE hide this project from Taehyung and Jungkook? No one is ready when this information just leaks out. No one expected that the two brightest figures in the legendary group BTS, Taehyung and Jungkook, were deliberately not involved in HYBE's latest project. Even more disturbing, this information did not come from the media, not from wild rumors, but from an internal employee of HYBE himself who could not bear to keep the secret any longer. The employee's name was not mentioned directly, but his testimony became a big bang in the global fan community. In a message that quickly spread in the online community, the employee stated that the decision not to involve Taehyung and Jungkook in the upcoming big project was not a creative coincidence, but rather a structured decision taken consciously by top management. The project, reportedly titled HYBE Vision 2030, is heralded as a new phase of the company's direction going forward. And to his surprise, the two biggest names in their portfolios, Taehyung and Jungkook, were wiped off the list of leading roles. The question now becomes very sharp. Why? Why aren't their two biggest stars involved? Did HYBE deliberately want to separate them from future projects? Or is there a much darker reason behind all this? The message from the employee seemed to open the curtain behind the stage, which so far has only shown its glamorous and successful side. He stated that since the beginning of this year, there has been a drastic change in the internal direction of HYBE. Starting from the rotation of management, the change of creative heads, to pressure from large investors who began to question the company's dependence on big names from the past. In this context, Jungkook and Taehyung are considered the symbols of the BTS era, which, according to some behind the scenes, should begin to slowly shift in favor of welcoming new faces from the survival program and the debut of the new group. But what made ARMY really angry was the fact that these two idols were not told. They're not spoken to. There was no discussion, no meeting to explain. There is no transparency. They are simply bypassed just like that. A silent betrayal that takes place behind the scenes, which even Taehyung and Jungkook themselves never crossed. And as this information spread, fans began to search for various signals and clues that they might have overlooked so far. One of the first clues emerged from Taehyung's attitude, which in recent months has seen him appear more reserved and aloof at public events. Many soldiers thought it was just the effects of fatigue or a new military routine. But now, after the revelation from within HYBE, everything seemed to have a different meaning. A blank look, a half-hearted smile, and an absence in a number of important projects suddenly feel full of meaning. Similarly, Jungkook, who despite appearing energetic at various appearances, made a cryptic statement on a live broadcast. Sometimes, you feel like the world is moving on without you, and you can only see from the outside. Is that a code? A cry of the heart that cannot be conveyed directly. Even more surprising, the employee leaked that the HYBE Vision 2030 project has actually been designed since the end of 2024 with a list of selected idols who will be the face of the company's future. However, when the list leaked to several internal divisions, chaos ensued. Many of the staff questioned why Taehyung and Jungkook were not included. It was then that the controversial statement of one of the project leaders made the room freeze. They are too big to control. We need a new figure that can be reshaped from scratch. Is it just a matter of control? Does HYBE feel like she can no longer manage Taehyung and Jungkook like she used to? Of course, this immediately sparked a wave of anger from ARMY, who felt that BTS was the main foundation of HYBE. Without them, there would be no large buildings, there would be no global expansion, there would be no opportunities to the American and European markets. In fact, there will be no such multinational label as now. But exactly two of the founders of the glory were even excluded from the map of the future. And in the midst of the storm, what touched the hearts of millions of people was how Taehyung and Jungkook, in their silence, still chose not to cloud the atmosphere. They did not issue an official statement, not making drama. But they're also not silent in the true sense. Sometime after this news broke, fans discovered that Jungkook liked a post on social media that read, "Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who abandon you first." And not long after, Taehyung posted a photo of a black piano with the caption, "Not all notes can be played together." But that doesn't mean we can't create other harmonies. Is that a response? Is it a sign that they are beginning to realize what is really happening? What was most heartwarming was that on a rare occasion backstage, Jungkook and Taehyung were seen talking together for quite some time. There was no official camera footage, but a backstage staffer said it was the only moment in recent months where the two seemed completely open with each other. No screenplay, no script, just two best friends trying to make sense of the storm they were facing together. And that's where hope begins to emerge. If all this time HYBE tried to systematically separate them, trying to quietly infiltrate the distance through the reduction of joint projects, then this information leaked from the inside actually brought them together again. Maybe this is the turning point. Perhaps this leak is not a catastrophe, but a call for their reunion. And maybe, as the saying goes, fate will always find a way back to those people who should be together. Now, armies around the world are starting to mobilize in solidarity. The hashtag We Stand With Taehyung is trending #1 in various countries. Videos of support, fan art, and messages of love flooded social media. Many demanded HYBE to explain, to be honest, and to stop treating the members as if they were mere business tools. And more surprisingly, some of HYBE's former staffers also spoke up. One of them said that over the years, many internal creative voices tried to defend Taehyung Jungkook's collaborative projects, but were always blocked from the top. Now they finally feel heard. The end of this story has not yet come. But one thing is certain, the truth cannot be hidden forever. And perhaps it's not just about the project, not just about management, but about the larger relationship, about friendship, trust, and how two young people who grew up together under the pressures of the entertainment world find each other again in the midst of a storm that nearly tore them apart. The question now comes back to all of us. Is this the beginning of Taehyung's revival? Or is it just a new round of resistance to a system that for too long silenced the voices of truth? The army knows the answer. And the world is now waiting, with bated breath. But the storm has shown no signs of abating. After the initial outburst of HYBE employees' confessions debunking the real reason why Taehyung and Jungkook's names were removed from the HYBE Vision 2030 project, the next wave of shock began slamming. The army, which was initially transfixed in confusion, has now turned into an electrifying force. In less than 24 hours, more than 6 million tweets containing the keyword HYBE, accompanied by expressions of anger and disappointment, flooded the Twitter universe. They demand clarity. They demand answers. But the answer from HYBE's side did not come. What appears instead is an increasingly suspicious silence. In ordinary situations, large companies like HYBE will usually immediately issue clarifications or press statements to calm the market, fans, and public opinion. But not this time. They were silent, and the silence felt like an indirect recognition. Does silence mean right? Did they wait for this storm to pass by itself, hoping that the army would get tired? If it is true that HYBE has a plan to slowly remove Taehyung and Jungkook's involvement from future projects in order to raise new, more controllable faces, then the next question is more dire. How far has the plan gone? Is this just the beginning of their gradual disappearance from the industry? One of the striking clues came from an internal variety show project that has always been a fan favorite, both Run BTS and the content on Weverse. In recent months, the content featuring both is indeed very minimal. At first, it was thought that it was due to the military schedule. But when the Vision 2030 project leaked, fans began charting something terrible. Not a single slot, segment, or initiative was designed to feature Taehyung and Jungkook in the long run. everything is geared towards new faces, as if they were being removed slowly but surely. But there was one thing HYBE didn't expect: the strength of the bond that had been formed for more than a decade between the members of BTS, especially Taehyung and Jungkook. If HYBE tries to erase their names from the project map, the outside world shows that their names cannot be erased from people's hearts. Fans began re-uploading moments of their togetherness, small laughs, understanding G. A day after Taehyung's meaningful message went viral and the hashtag #NoTaekook movement trended around the world, pressure on HYBE reached an unprecedented point. HYBE's headquarters in Yongsan was surrounded by journalists, fans, and even a number of cultural activists who demanded justice and transparency over the case. Amid the increasingly stifling chaos, a news leak rekindled an unquenchable fire. There was an internal emergency meeting held behind closed doors, and one of the topics was reputational losses due to the Taekook crisis. The word crisis is used to describe the public's reaction to the truth that has been hidden. But for ARMY and the people who really love BTS, it's not a crisis. It was treason, and what happens next can no longer be avoided. One of the creative staff who participated in the emergency meeting, through an account that has now been deactivated, wrote a message on the closed K-pop Insider forum. We were asked to redraw the entire structure of the Vision 2030 project. Many investors began to panic because of the unexpected public reaction. Some even threatened to withdraw funds if there were no soothing statements. But even more surprising, those two names, Taehyung and Jungkook, are now back on the list, but not with respect. They are considered risk factors. Risk factors is that now the status of the two names that have raised the name of HYBE to the top of the world's entertainment industry, and if so, how far is the management ready to take steps to control the risk? Are they just going to marginalize Taehyung and Jungkook in the project? Or will there be systematic attempts to weaken their influence? However, amidst all this pressure, one moment occurred that instantly changed the course of the game. A short video from a fan camera at Gimpo Airport shows Jungkook and Taehyung walking side by side, wearing masks and simple hoodies. But what makes the video viral is not only because of their togetherness, but because just before they got in the car, Jungkook patted Taehyung on the shoulder and said in a low but clear voice, "They can take everything, but not us." The phrase became a new mantra for the ARMY. They can take everything, but not us. A simple sentence, but harboring a deeper resistance than anything that can be written in a press release or a long speech. It was a reminder that connections between people, between friends, between people who trust each other, cannot be destroyed by business strategies or profit calculations. And as that moment spread, HYBE for the first time issued an official statement, but not an apology, not a full clarification. Only a rigid paragraph mentions that we are conducting a project evaluation to ensure the participation of various artists in accordance with the needs of the relevant creative strategy. The ARMY was not silent either. Several large international fan bases from Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, and Europe held simultaneous virtual campaigns. They decide to stop all purchases of HYBE's official merchandise until Taehyung and Jungkook are given a fair amount of space. And among all that power, one message came from an old fan who has been following BTS since 2013. If the world tries to keep them away, then the world needs to know who they are going against. Us. We knew their stories from the beginning. We will never forget that before labels, before money, before success, they were just two young people dreaming together. Behind the scenes, that pressure began to shake HYBE's own internals. Leaked internal documents show that the PR department proposed several reconciliation scenarios, including re-promoting Taekook in a joint project to quell public anger. But there is a conflict in their internal body. Some officials disagreed because they still viewed Taehyung and Jungkook as individuals who are too dominant and cannot be directed narratively. And this is when an even more shocking truth is revealed. The employee who first leaked the initial information about the removal of Taehyung and Jungkook's names turned out to be holding evidence of HYBE's internal creative meeting recording. In the recording, an executive is heard saying, "If we give them the lead role again, they will think they are still the center of the world. We need a new figure. Taehyung is too emotional. Jungkook is too independent. They don't fit into our long-term plans. The footage was eventually leaked to the public via a Korean whistleblower platform called taeil. Within 2 hours, the entire industry was in uproar. Too emotional. Too independent. Is that their sin? Is that not what they love? And the public reaction was widespread. Several international media such as The Guardian, Variety, and NME began to cover the case in depth.